started out being a mortgage broker, working for a company in LA, and then I opened my own company trying to be a mortgage broker, and I didn't really make it with that. And then I started selling garbage disposals to building contractors, and I saw what they were doing. This was before I met my wife. I'd been dating a girl from UCLA, and her father worked with a black fellow in 42nd and Avalon, which was in the black district. And I used to go down there because I was interested in what he did. And what he would do with Al, they would buy foreclosures, and they'd buy probates, and they'd fix them up and sell them, and they made a pretty good living. So what happened, he dropped dead of a heart attack, and this girl I was dating, I knew I had to go to the funeral, and I saw Al there, and he said, why don't you come in next week and let's talk about doing something together. And I said, Al, you know, I'm just out of college, I don't have any money. He said, don't worry about money, I'll put up the money. And then we started buying, he bought the first couple of houses, and I made it, and then I was off and running. And then I went into construction, which always fascinated me. And I did that until '96, and I retired from that. And during that time I was doing that, I acquired apartment houses. So now I manage the apartment houses, and I'm having a good time, because even when I was doing construction, if we had a trip planned, I had the first foot out the door. I loved to travel. It was a very, very wonderful time, and it still is.
My full name is Ronnie Cohen Stabler. I was born on December 1st, 1932 in Lincoln, Nebraska. My mother's full name was Clara Schneider Cohen, and she was born in St. Louis. My mom was very small, very petite, rather pretty, loved to get dressed up and go, and she was definitely a goer and a doer. She loved to play cards. She used to play poker with her girlfriends, but she was a homemaker. That was her life. My father's full name was Frank Cohen. He was, as I said, basically an orphan when my mom married him. She was 17 and he was maybe 21 when they got married. And I think my grandparents almost raised him. He was in the neighborhood and always hanging out, and he had no parents, he had no anyone, and he was just kind of part of the family always. He worked in a grain brokerage house. He started out being a telegrapher when they used to use the old Morse code and that kind of thing, and that was his training and what he did. I mean, he wasn't educated. I'm not even sure if he even finished high school, but he was very bright and had a good business sense. So once we got out to California and he started to go into business, he became a very successful businessman. So I know they left Nebraska and came out to California because they were having financial problems. And they went through the Depression, went through all that, and they came out to California to seek a better life for all of us. My parents were good people. They were involved. They were believed in helping others. They believed in doing things. And I'm sure my values came from them. I mean, no question, they came from them. My brother, whose name is Stanley Cohen, he's 9.5 years older, and we weren't close growing up because he left when I was a kid, went into the Army, got married, went back to the University of Illinois where his wife was from and graduated from college there. So then when they moved back to Reno and had their kids and everything, and I got married, then we became good friends and close, and I was close to he and his wife and his kids and all that. And he's a great guy. I really like him, love him, and respect him. When I was a child, I lived in Reno. We moved there when I was just in kindergarten. And I lived there all through grade school, all through high school. I graduated Reno High School. Had a very good time. I was part of we had two groups. There was, quote, the girls and the boys. So kind of the in crowd. I was one of the girls, and the others were the guys. Pleated skirts, Sweaters on the outside, saddle shoes all the time, bobby socks. That was what we did. Everybody would jitterbug. That was the big thing then. So slow dancing or jitterbugging. Yeah, Perry Como was the big hit. Sinatra. Our drill team, which was the in thing to do there, all the popular girls got into that, and we did a lot, and we traveled with all the sports teams. They had buses for us, and we were, Nevada being a small state, we went to all the games and everything all over the state, and we were lucky that the year I was there, our senior year, we were state champions in football and basketball and baseball and everything else, so our group traveled to all the games, and it was fun. It was a very safe kind of growing up. We could walk all over town. It was a small town. You could go to the movies by yourself and no one thought anything of it. The boys would get cars when they were 17, 18, but the girls never did. None of my friends had cars, wouldn't have thought of it. Because we could either walk to school or the guys picked us up on the way. It was one high school, 2 junior highs, and everybody were friends. And it was fun. Yeah, it was small town living. But it was not just small town, it was a sophisticated small town. And we would, if we wanted to go to the theater or something, there was nothing there, but we'd fly into San Francisco and go to the theater, or we'd come to Los Angeles to go shopping, or we'd do that kind of thing. So it was nice. It had best of all worlds. We were very involved in our temple, so we would do Passover Seder at the temple. Those were my mom's friends. And some of my best memories are sitting at Passover, sitting down in the temple, scraping carrots with all the ladies and the kids and everything, and that's what we would do. And we spent a lot of time in our synagogue. And I loved it because it was directly across the street from our high school. And when we were at services, there was no air conditioning in it, so the windows were open. So I could hear the bell ring across the street to school. So it was between classes, I would excuse myself from my parents, and I'd go out and go across the street to meet my friends at school, to chat with them a while and come back when breaks between classes were over. I knew that when I was graduated high school, I was going to be shipped out. I was a Jewish girl growing up in a very Gentile kind of community. And I mean, there weren't any Jewish kids around. So that was a given. I was leaving, and that's it. So, and the only place I was going to come was Los Angeles because my grandmother was here, my aunts and uncles were here, everybody was here, so it was safe for me to come here. So I went to SC and loved it. I was a retailing major. I was going to go someplace. I was going to take care of the world in retailing. Never happened. I met Joe at the end of my first year of college, went back for another year, and I got married when I was 19. I had a very nice growing up, and nothing memorable in it, which I guess is good, and nothing, adverse, nothing. It was a good life. I went to a dermatologist, and there was sitting this young man there who had something on his hand he was taking off from playing tennis.
She was wearing her sorority pledge pin, and I said, "How are things at the A Phi House?" And I remember her very first word to me was, "Huh?"
I remember walking into the dorm and saying, "I just met the nicest older man. Tall, very good looking, dark wavy hair, really cute." And that was the end of it. He gave me a business card, and I threw it in the drawer of my dorm and forgot about it. And the next week he called me. Oh, I was in AE Phi. He was out of school. He had been taught out at UCLA, but he was out of school and in business by then. And we started dating, and we just went out maybe 3 or 4 times, and it was the end of the school year. I finished my finals, and he said, "Why don't you stay around a little longer?" So my aunt lived here in Los Angeles, so I stayed with her for a week before I went home for the summer, and we went out every night. And I went home. I went back to Reno, and a couple weeks after I was home, I got a call, and he said, "I really want to come up and visit."
I met her folks and stayed up there, and I just would drive up there. It was a long drive, but when I first saw her, I said, "I'm going to marry her." And I kept at it.
Joe came in, and my mom met him, and she said, "You're going to marry that man." And I said, "Are you kidding? I'm 18 years old. I am not the least bit interested in getting married. I'm not thinking about it. It's ridiculous." And here I am.